Hey everyone, it's good to be with you today. We're going to be talking about free PowerPoint templates and how to make your own. There are lots of great PowerPoint templates that are out there that you can use them to really create some pretty cool experiences for your students. Whether you're in a face-to-face classroom, if you're doing everything completely remotely, or even if you're doing a hybrid of the both. These are the kinds of things that kind of take it beyond just doing regular PowerPoint slides or a regular old document or something like that. So yeah, that's what we're going to be talking about today. I'm also going to share with you lots and lots of free PowerPoint templates that you can download. And did I mention free? Because that's kind of like our favorite price, isn't it? Teacher's favorite price is free, you know? So there's going to be lots of good free stuff in there as well. So let's go ahead and dig right into this. I did want to mention real quick, actually, before we start with my slides, is that this presentation is part of the Global EdTech Academy, which is a partnership between Microsoft and Q. And within the Global EdTech Academy, you can sit in on a whole bunch of office hours where you get kind of like face-to-face with some of the presenters and get to ask them questions. There are master classes, which are multiple session classes that are all in the same topic. And then you've also got regular sessions. There's hundreds of them on a whole big variety of topics. If you come to the site, which by the way is at q.org, that's cue.org/Microsoft, is the easiest way to get there. I just dropped it in the chat, by the way. If you go there, the two links that I click on the most are the schedule link, which shows you all of the upcoming sessions. And by the way, you can sort them by speaker name and by the tool that you want and the type of session. And you can even search for keywords. But then there's also the session videos tab where you can click on this big red banner to see all of the session video recordings that are out there. And the number keeps growing every time I look at it. Right now it's up to 137 with more than 10,000 views, which is wild if you ask me. And there is some really, really good stuff in here. And so feel free to go scroll through those and watch a session or two or five at any point, because there's some fantastic presenters in the Global EdTech Academy, and being able to catch up with their stuff at any time is pretty cool. So anyway, just wanted to make sure that you knew that that was there, q.org/Microsoft, cue.org/Microsoft. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's get started into talking about PowerPoint templates. And this is one of the things I love about PowerPoint the most, is that it's for more than presentations. You know, I think a lot of people just assume that we're going to use PowerPoint to do, to do stuff like, put the slides up on the screen and we're going to talk about what's on the slides. And then, we're going to keep clicking through the slides. There's bullet points. We think of it for oral presentations. My favorite uses of PowerPoint have nothing to do with oral presentations whatsoever. I love PowerPoint because it gives you a slide, which by the way, you can change the slide to whatever size you want it to be. It can be vertical, it can be horizontal, whatever. But it gives you a slide, and within that slide, you can put images on it, you can put text on it, you can put icons on it, you can put videos, you can put audio recordings. There's just a ton of stuff that you can put onto these slides. And if we use them as kind of like a creative canvas of sorts, instead of just for bullet point presentations, the opportunities are huge. There's so much that we can do with it. And so when I say in this session, free PowerPoint templates and how to make your own, the neat thing about all of this is that you can create a starting point for your students. That's what I mean by a template. Like you can make a slide or even a couple of slides that have something for your students to do on them, and you can push it out to all of your students through your learning management system. Students can work on their own copy and then they can turn it into you. So it's not just like a fill in the blank multiple choice worksheet. These are like interactive learning experiences that we can set up, which is super cool. So we're going to look at a whole bunch of pre-created ones and also how you can make your own too. So that's what today really is all about. Now, I want to give you a couple links before we start real quick. This is one, if you've been to any of my PowerPoint sessions, you've probably seen this link before. So forgive me if I share it again, but this one is at ditchthattextbook.com. That's my website, /PowerPoint-templates. I just dropped it into the chat if you want to click on it and go check it out. You don't have to for this session, but you might want to hang on to this link because this is where the good stuff is. So let me show you what I'm talking about here. If you go to that link, it's going to take you here. And so this page, it says 30 plus free PowerPoint education templates and how to make them. This is like the web page of the presentation that we're talking about today. And if you scroll down for a little bit, you'll see on the little table of contents, it's got free PowerPoint templates to download, how to make your own, and then even a video on it. And so when we scroll just a little bit, here's the PowerPoint library that's here. And see, this is the kind of stuff, the kinds of templates that you're going to find in this library. This is the kind of stuff I think that, you know, people a lot of times they go off to Teachers Pay Teachers. I don't know how familiar you are with Teachers Pay Teachers. You know, that's the place where they go and they'll buy instructional materials and worksheets and stuff like that. They'll go and buy PowerPoint templates like this for, you know, $2, $3, $5, maybe $10 or something. I don't charge for that stuff. I try to make as many of these things as I can and make them available for free. You all are probably spending enough of your pocket money on education stuff as it is. So why in the world would I need to nickel and dime you for PowerPoint templates, you know? So I just gather as many of those as I can and stick them in here. So anyway, I wanted to just show you real quick what some of the things are that are available. And you'll notice if you scroll down on this page, you got this blue download button, which will let you download the PowerPoint files. And so we've got some of them that kind of replicate some games that you can play on Snapchat. We've got one that kind of replicates Instagram stories. And with any of these are all educational activities. So they're ways for students to be able to show what they know through the lens of social media. There's even a TikTok one and a Twitter one. They're not all social media, I promise. This is a very popular one, the interactive notebook one. In fact, we might take a little bit of a look at this one later. There's a sticky notes template. There are infographic templates. There's a whole bunch of cool stuff that you can use with your students. And then I've got a bunch of basic graphic organizers too. And so, you know, what's great about these is this gives students a sort of like a place to think and a place to work. And so there are, I think, like 24 different graphic organizers that you can download. And then we come down here and there are a bunch of other templates that are available at another site called Slides Mania. We're going to talk about that a little bit too. So anyway, I wanted to tell you about that page real quick because there's lots of good stuff that you can download and assign directly to your students. Oh, I'm getting some excitement in the comments already. Summer's like, this is great. So yeah, that's just wanted to make sure that you knew that that was there. So there's also one more link that I wanted to direct you to before we really get started. And I'm going to put this one in the chat as well. It's ditchthattextbook.com/101. And so what you get here is if you go to this link, this is where you can sign up for my regular weekly email newsletters. So these are the kinds of newsletters that push out lots of practical ways to use technology in your classroom, the stuff you can plug into class right away, like the next day. If you sign up for the email newsletter, you get these 3 free ebooks too. You've got 101 practical ways to ditch that textbook. We're talking about templates in this session. You get like a whole free big binder of them. And then there's another free ebook. This one's focused on G Suite, but a lot of the ideas from this ebook can be used with Microsoft products as well. So anyway, if you want to go to that link and grab those ebooks and get signed up for the email newsletter, that can be kind of like your pipeline of new ideas that come into your inbox, like, you know, once a week or so. Brigitte just said, thank you so much for the new addition to the HyperDocs templates for novel study. Love, you made this high school teacher happy. That's awesome. There's a whole page on my website about HyperDocs for different novels. These really cool student-paced activities that you can, plug right into your class. So, an internet search should be able to find that for you. Unless Brigitte wants to drop the link into the chat, that could be cool too. So I'll just put that out there. Okay. So when we're talking about templates, this is kind of like the overview of what I mean when I'm talking about templates. Oh, boom, she nailed it with the link. Awesome. Thank you for that. So that's in the chat if you want to go take a look at that if you're here live. So with the whole templates thing, here's what I'm really talking about. See, I use the word template. And I know that within PowerPoint, there are some pre-created templates. So you might be thinking I'm talking about that. But the truth is I'm talking about a PowerPoint presentation that you make, or you can download one of mine or somebody else's, but it's a PowerPoint presentation that you take and you assign to your students. It's kind of like a starting point for your students. And so when you look at the workflow on the screen here, this is where we start, is where you create the template or you go find one. And then you go on to the second step, which is to assign it to your students. So you've finished up with this one PowerPoint and you want to get it out to all your students. So you probably, I bet there's a good chance you have a learning management system. And in that learning management system, if you attach the PowerPoint presentation to the, if you attach it to the assignment, most of the time there's a little button off to the side, like in Microsoft Teams, it looks like this, and it says students edit their own copy, or make a copy for each student or something like that. And so basically what you do is you create the template in PowerPoint, you attach it to an assignment in Microsoft Teams or whatever your LMS is, and then you make a copy for each student. That's kind of like the digital photocopier, and it just kind of like shoots them all out to all of the students. They get their own copy. And then what do the students do? They open it up, they work on their own copy, they finish it up, and then they submit it to you so you can put feedback on it and grade it and do all those fun things that teachers do. So this is the whole process this whole presentation is about. But we're going to focus in this part of it mostly on step number 1, which is creating templates or finding templates. Because hopefully you're able to attach them to an assignment, get them to your students, and your students can work on them. So awesome. Very good. Oh, we've got A. Martinez in the chat that says, I was in yesterday's webinar and loved it. I have no power in Puerto Rico since we had a storm, but I'm using a solar charger to be here. Oh my goodness, that's amazing. I didn't want to miss this. Well, I'm so glad that you're here. That's fantastic. Yesterday we did a presentation on PowerPoint graphic organizers. So if you want to get kind of like a follow-up to this, on how to use graphic organizers and make them, the replay of that presentation will be up later. But I'm so glad that you got to come in and be a part of this, if this was the one that you were looking forward to. So, all right, very good. Okay, so let's start digging into this, these free PowerPoint templates and how to make them. So let's take a look at some of the ones that are out here. And I want to start with something sort of basic here. So let's start with this sticky notes one. And again, there's a whole bunch of these. You can go download them. You'll also notice that there's a blog post that goes with almost all of these if you want to learn more about them. But let's go ahead and download this sticky notes template real fast. Oh, that downloaded the tweet for someone. Let me try this again. Maybe I'll try a different one. Let's just start with one of the graphic organizers instead. Which one was that? That was sticky notes. You know what? I think I have the sticky notes one already. This is me trying to operate on the fly and make all this work for you. There it is. Sticky notes, brainstorming. There it is. Okay, excellent. So let's zoom out just a little bit so you can see the sticky notes. There they are. Fantastic. Okay, this is an example of one of the templates. And so what I did with this one, if you want to create one of these on your own from scratch, what you can do is just open up a brand new PowerPoint, and you'll see that in this one, here's the slide. I turned the slide to gray for some reason. I can't remember why I did that, but the background of this one is gray. But you can see the slide right here. And then with templates, one of the things that I love to do is I love to think about what it is that I want my students to do. And then I try to find helpful things that I can include on the slides. Actually, not really on the slides, but like next to the slides, around the slides in that workspace. I like to try to include helpful stuff in that workspace around the slides to make things easier on my students and to save them some time. So this template is the sticky note brainstorming template. And the idea behind this one is that we have all these little sticky notes. Now these sticky notes are shapes. One of my favorite things to use when making these templates is the shapes. So let me show you where you can find these. By the way, I should mention that what you see on your screen is the desktop version of PowerPoint. You have an online version of PowerPoint, you have the mobile version of PowerPoint, but the one that I'm demoing on is the desktop version. It's the most full-featured one. If you have access to it, it's always the best one to use. So if I click on Insert, first of all, you can see across the top here, these are all of the things that I can insert into my slide, which really, the more that you look at all of these things, these are all possibilities for things that you could include in a template where you could have your students do work. So, I mean, from inserting pictures to organizing things in tables to adding icons to adding audio and video recordings and even screen recordings, you can put all of this stuff onto a template. So just kind of file that away in your mind as you start to think about templates that you might want to make. That those are the kinds of things that you can add in with PowerPoint. Now for this one, since I wanted to make this template that was for sticky note brainstorming, I had to put the sticky notes on there first, right? It just so happened that when I go to Insert and I look at the Shapes menu, if you start to scroll down just a little bit, I'm going to see if I can find it. There just so happens to be, here it is right there. It says rectangle folded corner. I thought that that little shape looked an awful lot like a sticky note. And so I thought, hey, what if I put some sticky notes in around that workspace so that we can use them? Now I wanted to touch on that workspace again for just a second because we've got the slide right here, right? All of these sticky notes are officially not on the slide. So imagine this kind of like you've got a piece of paper. You're sitting at a desk, you got a piece of paper on your desk, and all around the paper is where you put your colored pencils or your markers or your eraser or your glue stick or any of the stuff that you need, your scissors. That's your workspace, right? This gray area around my slide is the workspace. And so since that is not actually part of the student work, that's where I like to put all this extra stuff in. And so to do sticky note brainstorming, you know, the idea behind this is it's just kind of like getting a pad of sticky notes and putting them up on the wall and jotting ideas on each one. Only the nice thing about doing this digitally in PowerPoint is that you have almost unlimited different colors of sticky notes, and you have an unlimited number of sticky notes. You never run out. And so let's say I want to start by putting an idea over here in a sticky note. One of the things that I like to do with this one in particular, and this is something that I do with a lot of templates, is I keep all of my stuff off to the side and I just duplicate the one I want to use. This is a keyboard shortcut that I use. So I'm going to click on this orange one and I'm going to go Control D. That's D for duplicate. If you're using a Mac, it's Command D. But Control D for duplicate, and I get an extra one and I just drag it over here on the screen. With these shapes, whether it's a sticky note shape or a rectangle or a circle or whatever, if you double click on it, it pulls up a little cursor and you can type in it. Right in there. Here's my first idea. Now, if that idea is in sort of an organizable category that's similar to my next idea, I'm going to want to make that one orange too. So I duplicate it again and I say, here's another orange idea. And then let's say I have an idea that comes with something completely different. So now I duplicate and I make it green. Here's a green idea. And so we can go on and on and on and on and on with that, of course, right? Marilyn just said, thanks for accommodating Mac users. Yep, my pleasure. As best as I can, I certainly will. So now if some of these are related to other things, like for instance, we have a yellow idea. You know that I'm saying a yellow idea and it's not like actually a yellow idea. I'm just trying to, simulate categories and stuff. But if there's sort of a flow from one thing to another, that's why I've got these little arrows in here. Control D to duplicate. And I can put this arrow like that and show that that one leads to that one. So sometimes if there's movement among the ideas, then that can be real helpful. Now, what you'll notice that I also did with my template here is that now, of course, I've got sticky notes kind of put all over this one right here. But before I did, I duplicated my slides over and over again. So I had multiple slides. See, there's 10 of them on here. And with each one, I have this word introduction on it. That can be kind of like the title for that board of sticky notes. So if we're talking about lesson planning on this one, and then maybe this one is going to be about assessment, and then maybe this one's going to be about student engagement. So then I've got different boards where I can put my different sticky notes. Okay, so that's just one example of one kind of template that's out there. And the reason I wanted to show you this one is A, to show you that PowerPoint is much more than just doing oral presentations, like I said before. But B, you can put things onto these templates and you can click and drag them around and move them around. So that's another thing that makes it way more interactive, is if you're able to put things onto the screen that students can move in meaningful ways. So that's just, if you've never thought of using PowerPoint to do that kind of thing, it's kind of a game changer because it really does open up lots of possibilities. So that's one of them. That one is the sticky note brainstorming template. So I'm going to close that one down. Everybody with me so far? Everybody still doing okay? And that one was right up here. Now, let's say that you scrolled through my entire library here and you saw all of these great templates, but you're like, you know what? I need to make something, and it's not exactly what he has, or I need to make something a little bit more specific for me and my students. So maybe what you do there is you make your own from scratch. So I'm going to start a brand new slide presentation. I like to delete my title stuff off of here. P.S. Have you all noticed this designer feature that's in PowerPoint? Because it is pretty amazing. What you can do is, and you can find it also through this design and see how it says design ideas. Once you start putting content onto your slides, it gives you suggestions on how you can design them. And see, you can even load more designs. So if you're not a fantastic designer and you don't like to make like pretty slides, or you try to make pretty slides and they're not very pretty, then you can use this designer and it will create kind of like a design theme that you can use throughout all of your slides so that they all feel the same. It's a pretty cool thing. So anyway, if you haven't seen that, that's there. Okay, back to templates. So we were going to create a template, and let's say in this template, we want students to insert a picture. We want students to write some text, and then we want them to put something in order. Let's say we've got like those three parts. So here's how I might do that. I'm going to insert some shapes. I'm going to use the rectangle shape, and this is going to be where they're going to put their picture. So we're going to do that. Use my Control D to duplicate again. And I'm just going to resize this so there's a little space in between. This is going to be where they're going to type. And then I'm going to Control D to duplicate again. And we're going to make a third section over here where they're going to put some things in order. Of course, it would make sense if we change the color of all these sections, right? So that they can kind of differentiate between them. So in this, we're going to go to home. Oh no, we're going to go to shape format. That's what we want to do. And then in shape format, we're going to change the fill color. So we're going to make this one actually more of a light blue. We're going to make this one kind of like a yellowish color. And then let's make this one a different color. Let's make this one kind of like a green color. So we got our three sections, right? Let's go add some instructions to the top of this one. If you can imagine this being kind of like a sheet of paper, that's one way to start to wrap your brain around how this works. But we have to also remember that what we're constrained to do on paper is not necessarily what we're constrained to do in PowerPoint. So if we think of it in terms of a paper-based thing, but then we start to incorporate some of the cool things like the pictures, like the videos, like the audio, like the draggable pieces, when we start to incorporate that in, we start to see it in a different light. Okay. Insert a silly picture of yourself. Now, what you can do with this is, there's a wide variety of ways that kids can get pictures of themselves. One is if they're working off of a Windows laptop, then you have the camera app. Oh, that's the other side of my... Oh, okay. It's because I'm using... All right. You know what? We're going to take a picture of my speaker. We're going to pretend that's a silly picture of me, but that's actually... See, this is my speaker back here. That's right behind my computer. Anyway, what I was saying was you can use the camera app on your laptop, if you have a Windows laptop or a Surface tablet or whatever, to take a picture. And so I just take that picture and it goes right into my pictures folder. If you're using a mobile device, of course, you can snap a picture with that. There's a wide variety of ways that you can get those pictures in, right? So we're just going to go to insert pictures from this device. And we're going to go to the camera roll. And oh, look, there's my little speaker right there. So we're going to take this. Oh, that's funny. Look at the alt text. A picture containing indoor cup, coffee, and sitting. It must think that my speaker is a cup of coffee or something. I don't know. Okay, so anyway, we can take this picture and make it fit into our space. Now, here's another neat thing that you can do with templates is that you can use them to label and identify things. So watch this. We're going to go to Insert Shapes. We're going to come down to the arrows. And if I draw an arrow in kind of like this, then I can point to things in the picture and I can label them. The other neat thing about the arrows is watch this. If I double click any shape, it becomes a text box. There's Matt's speaker right there. I can take this, I'm going to use my Control-D to duplicate. That's closet. Totally should have closed the door beforehand. I'm going to put that up here because I'm going to say, I'm looking in my closet and I can see it with a lot better light than you can because this gets really dark for you. That little white blob right there, that's a stack of books. So now I've labeled some stuff inside of that image. Have you ever thought of using PowerPoint to do this? You put a picture in there and you start to label things. There's a lot that you can do with this, right? And so this part down here was going to be some written text. So maybe, again, I'm going to use my Control-D here. So I'm going to move this down and I'm going to say, tell a silly story about yourself. And now what I could do is I could have them double click, but notice it's centered there and they can change it so that it's left aligned and up at the top. But I think what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to make another text box and I'm going to say, erase this text and write here. And so then the student opens this up and then they highlight all of this and you say, one time when I was at school, the funniest thing happened to me, exclamation point. Here's what happened. And then they have a chance to write. So now, not only do we have an activity that has an image up here, we have something where you can write. And then we've got, let's say, a something where we want to put things in order. So what I'm going to do for this one is I'm going to click and insert the shapes. I'm going to use the rectangles again. Kind of boring with the rectangles. And so we're going to double click this one. We're going to say eat breakfast, go for a walk. We're going to say watch TV. We're going to say eat lunch. We're going to say play with the dog. And then we're going to say eat dinner. And then we're going to say go to bed. Okay. Now what you'll notice about these is we have all of these different little shapes, which are kind of like tiles. And what we can do as the teacher is we can set up our template to say, let me move this a little bit so that it fits on the screen where it's supposed to. There we go. And we could say, put these in chronological order. Now, these just happen to be in chronological order right now. At least in my mind, they would have been. Or you could say, put them in chronological order according to the book we just read. Like, how do they happen to the character? And so we might have to mix them up a little bit before the student actually starts doing anything with them. So I'm going to shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. There we go. And so I can put them back in and kind of line them back up if I want to. And now we assign this out to the students. And then when we assign it out to the student, what is their job? Their job is to take these and to drag them into order. Now, somebody might ask, I've had this question asked before, they'll say, okay, so they drag them back into order. Can PowerPoint grade it for me? Can PowerPoint show me that those things are in order? To which I would have to say, unfortunately, sadly, no, PowerPoint can't do that. What we're doing here on this slide is we're basically using PowerPoint to do something that PowerPoint wasn't designed to do. You know, PowerPoint was designed to make presentations, right, that go up on the screen. And so it's made to use, you know, to use these slides to do that so we can flip through them and give a presentation. It's not made to grade. It's not made to do sorting activities and all of that. So we have to accept the limitations of PowerPoint because it's not made for doing something like this. But hey, this may still be better than the alternative, which could be like giving them a paper worksheet. Blech. So, you know, we would say that eating breakfast is probably first. So they're going to drag that up there. I can't remember what goes where, but I remember eat dinner goes down here and eat lunch goes up here. You know what? I just made them haphazardly, so it really doesn't matter, I guess. So, oh, go to bed should be last. So move that one like that. And so now we're all done. And then the students can turn it in. Okay. One other side to this whole template thing that you can create. And so what I've tried to do here is show you that you can have multiple things on one template, that you can incorporate pictures into your template, and that you can even have draggable, sortable activities like this in your template. And by the way, you could have each one of these three things on its own slide. So just because I put them all on one PowerPoint slide doesn't mean that you can't break these up a little bit and put each one on a different slide. Or you could put them all in separate PowerPoint presentations if you wanted to segment it out like that. So, and then Mel just said in the chat, if you color code the squares they're moving, you could memorize the order of the colors. So it's a quick grade instead of having to read the words. That's fantastic. I never thought about that. That's brilliant. So yeah, if you know that it's red, yellow, red, yellow, green, and then you go and you take a look at it and they've moved them all into place, then that's going to make it quick. I guess I used red and yellow and green multiple times, so they could have those out of order. But if they're all different colors, then yes, that's a fantastic idea. Brilliant idea. Love that. Okay, so that's an example of what it might look like when you make your own template. I just lost the word template there for a second. Okay. And here's a common problem when it comes to these templates is, tell me if this sounds like something that you would go through too. Oh, and by the way, with this one, before the students started working, what I would do is I would move these arrows off to the side. And you can include a picture for them if you want to, or you can give them a space where they can put it in there. But if you leave them off to the side like that, then they drag the arrows onto the picture themselves. So that's the way that I would set it up, is I would have the arrows off to the side. That's just me. Okay. I was just getting ready to say something. I can't remember where I was going to go. Oh my goodness. Oh, I remember now. I remember what it was. Tell me if this, if this has ever happened to you, or if you could totally see this happening. You get this template and it's all set up and it's ready to go. I'm going to delete out that text so that students are ready to go. They've got all of their stuff. It's all perfect. And you send it out to the students, and the students start working on it. And guess what happens? They accidentally click on this and they move it over here, or they do this, or they flip this one upside down accidentally, or go to bed and go for a walk, accidentally get deleted. And they're like, Mr. Miller, my template is all messed up. Well, first of all, yeah, Summer's like they delete stuff all the time. Yeah, no, I totally get you with that. First of all, Control Z is a life skill, or Command Z, Maryland. There's your Mac user accommodation. Control Z is a life skill, even for littles. So Control Z to put things back the way that they were. There's that. But what if you want to make some stuff that they can't move around? Sometimes that could be really helpful. So let's say we want to do this exact same thing, but we want to make it so that the stuff that they don't need to move, they just can't move. So there's a couple ways you can do that. First, I'm going to take off all the things that students need to manipulate, as in they would move the arrows, they would insert their own picture, they would type in this text, and so they're going to need to manipulate that text, so I'm going to take that off. And then all of these tiles, they would need to do something with, so I'm going to take all of those off there. So really, this is all the stuff that we want them not to move around, right? This is the stuff that if we could lock it in place, that would be great. So watch this. I'm going to take all of this stuff, highlight all of it. I'm going to cut it, Control X to cut. So now I've still got it. I've got it like in my hand or in my back pocket or whatever. This is where the master slide is fantastic. So you can find the master slide by clicking on View and going to Slide Master. And so when you click on the Slide Master, what you do is you can either come up here. This is the master of all master slides. This is what gets put on every single thing. And then these down here are the different styles of slides that you can create. So like this is the title slide. This is the title and text. This is the subtitle slide, and so on and so forth. Have you ever seen, let me show you where those are real quick. Whenever you hit home, I think. No, it's under, oh darn, I can't remember where this goes. But there's a place where you can select all of those. Okay, you could go to new slide. There you go. And see what I'm talking about? You've got all these master slides, the title one, the title and content, the section header, so on and so forth. Okay, if we want to lock that stuff in the background, you can go to the slide master. And if you want it locked in the background of every single slide that you use in this PowerPoint, put it on this first one. Take all of that stuff out. I'm going to delete it, and I'm going to paste in all the stuff that I had before. And notice if you put it on that first one, it gets applied to all of these. Now, let's look at an alternative. What if we want to make this one type of template that they could put into these into this PowerPoint? In that case, we want to replace one of these guys, one of these subordinate slides. Look, now all of that stuff is just on this one. Now, when you put something onto a master slide like this, it's locked in the background so students can't move it. So watch what happens when we close the master. Now watch, I try to move that text, can't do it. Move that box, can't do it. So yeah, so that's one easy way to be able to fix all of that, is to use the master slide. So what I would do is, when you hit view and you go to the slide master, if you want to do it for all of the slides, you put it on this first one. But if you want to have multiple versions of locking it in the background, you want to put them in these instead. Make sense? Okay, excellent. Okay, so to this point, and by the way, let's stop for just a second. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second so you can see my face, unless you can see my face anyway. I want to stop for just a second to see in the chat, where's your mind going with this? Because we've talked about a variety of different kinds of templates that you could use. We've got templates where you put an image in. We've got templates where you can drag arrows around and label. We've got templates where you can sort things. We've got templates where you can fill in text. I've even got, I didn't even show you this, but I'm going to put it on the screen here real fast. I've got all of these graphic organizers. So you could do something like a Frayer, where you give them this and all they have to do is they just fill in text. They put a vocabulary word in the middle, and then from that vocabulary word, they give a definition of it, they give characteristics of it, they give examples of it, and they give non-examples of it. With a plot diagram, we just have these little boxes where they fill in text. And they give the exposition, they give the rising action, the climax, the falling action, and the resolution. So my big question that I'd love us to bounce around in the chat is, what are you thinking as far as templates go? Like, what kind of stuff could you set up like this in a PowerPoint slide so that students could, you know, do more than just write you an essay or a paragraph, or they could do more than just answer multiple choices? Like, what could they do with images? What could they do by dragging shapes? What could they do with any of that stuff? After seeing some examples in this presentation, I'm curious to see if you've got any thoughts on how you could potentially use this. So definitely go ahead and drop those into the chat. I'm curious to see what you all are thinking at this point. So I'll kind of keep an eye on the chat while you type. And while you type, see how I'm dragging my feet, trying to give you a second to drop something in here. Like, what could you do with a template? Summer says this would be great for interactive activities for literacy in class or remote. I'm thinking using the sticky notes for brainstorming writing ideas. Yes, and then they can take those sticky notes and they can put together like ideas. Or if you're using it for brainstorming writing, you could take the sticky notes. Remember the one I had little arrows on it? You could just put the arrows so that they know what comes next and like put them in order. And then she says sorting nouns and verbs. I could use these as homework and for centers. Yeah, totally. You know, talk about what is it? Parts of speech. That could definitely work. And you know what you could even do is you could make a template where you have kind of like a legend off to the side, and you say red is for nouns, blue is for verbs, green is for adjectives. And you could have them color code each of the words and then drag them into a sentence. And then they could easily see from there the different parts of speech. So that could work. Becca says order the steps for solving an equation. Yeah, absolutely. So if you got all the different steps for the equation and you jumble them all up, then you're able to put them into, you know, drag them into order, which could totally work. What else have we got? Joseph says in science, using the templates where students have to demonstrate sequences of cycles, mechanisms, formation of structures. Yeah, any of that stuff where there is, you know, a sequence or a cycle or something like that, and they just put them in order, or they put some sort of visual representation. In fact, Joseph, since you mentioned that, I want to show you something really cool in PowerPoint. So I'm just going to insert a blank slide on this one. Watch this. You can go to insert icons. And so if you're doing sequences of cycles, mechanisms, formation of structures, stuff like that, I'm guessing that that has, you know, several different steps. or there's a process, what you can do is you could have one little icon. See, if you go to insert icons in PowerPoint, PowerPoint has this library of like thousands of icons. And so what you could do is you could grab some of these by searching, of course, could totally work. And so, you know, let's say with the, I know that these ones that I'm selecting really don't have anything to do with like a cycle or a process or anything. But you can see how if you bring these in and put a little bit of text with each one, at least then there's a visual representation of it. So then you put a little text down below it and you can say step by step by step by step and have some sort of little visual with it. I don't know if that fits with your example, Joseph, but that could totally work, I think. So Jennifer says, my students usually have trouble truly understanding tone and diction. So I think I could create some sort of drag and drop activity where students put words on a spectrum by degree of intensity. Yes, I love that. In fact, I have an example. Let me see if I've got it in here. This was the interactive notebook one. This is another template. Actually, this is a like great big PowerPoint presentation that looks like a notebook. It looks like a notebook full of a bunch of templates. And so there's a whole bunch of examples in here. First of all, there's movable vocabulary, which I think is super cool because you can drag things into the different spots. We kind of did that earlier. But the one I wanted to show you was the shades of meaning. This was an example that there's an educator named Tony Vincent who has a great education blog. He's from Iowa. And this was something he did with his elementary school students, is they would come up with a word, maybe a vocabulary word, and then they would use a thesaurus, and they would come up with words that were more or less than that word. So if you say like average in the middle, then a more word might be superb, and a less word might be abysmal. And so you come up with word, and then that way you kind of put them on a spectrum like that. That could totally work. So, all right, let's see. Oh, please share your screen. Sorry. Thank you for catching it. Oh my goodness. Okay, you guys were trying to catch me. Brigitte had her hand up. Like I got going. Okay, shades of meaning. This was my goodness. Have I never done this before? Let me do that again. Okay. This was what I was talking about. It's like a whole spectrum. And see, we've got the little arrow here. And then we've got, this was where I was saying you might have the word average and put it in the middle. See, doesn't this make more sense now that you can see it? So you might put the word average right here. And then if you want one that's, I don't know if more and less is the best thing to describe this with, but you know, more might be like superb and less might be abysmal. And so yeah, that's what that made me think of when Jennifer, you were talking about tone and diction. When you have a spectrum by degree of intensity, that's kind of what that made me think of. So Elizabeth says the Post-it template can be used for student discussions. Share your ideas or explain your thinking when solving a math problem. I love that. Becca says sort different types of numbers into a Venn diagram. Yep. Mel says I teach Spanish, so sorting by verb, subject, or subject-verb agreement. Yes, that totally works too. The yo, the tú, the el, ella, usted, the nosotros. Yeah, all of that would totally work. I was a high school Spanish teacher. Brigitte says I teach economics and business, so I could use the hexagon graphic organizer to review keywords, entrepreneur, and start vocabulary word and keep building. Let me show you that one real fast that she's talking about. I think you guys can see my screen now. This is another one. And this hexagonal thinking one that you can see on the screen, all of these hexagons are draggable. And the neat thing about that is that whenever you start with one hexagon on the screen, the idea behind this is that anything that shares a side with another hexagon, they have to have something in common. That's the rule for this one. And so by doing that, it's neat to see all of the relationships that you see between different words. For math, students have them import graphs of algebraic equations as an image. Yes, quadratics, for example, and then label the features of the graph. Yes, that totally works. Now I'm getting the comments where you're saying share your screen, share your screen. Thank you again for catching that. Share images of the steps taken through scientific investigation or a STEM challenge. Yeah, so you take pictures of them and then you drop them onto the slides, and it almost is like sort of like a digital poster with pictures from the different steps. I love that. And then add QR codes to engage with video. Yeah, if you've got a QR code that they can scan to go, oh my goodness, that's really getting interactive. Then answer a question in a box, KWL chart to see what else they want to learn. This is all such good stuff. Jennifer, shades of meaning. That's exactly what I need. I love that. Summer asks, can you make it so that students see each other's ideas on the slides? Yes. Okay, this is really cool. And this is kind of like a little bit next level stuff, but it's really easy to do. So check this out. This one is best done on PowerPoint Online. So here's what you can do, because she asked, can you make it so students see each other's ideas on the slides? What if, I'm going to delete these out real quick, and I'm going to insert a bunch of blank slides. So I'm just going to delete all these. Let's imagine you have 20 students in your class. So let's make 20 slides for 20 students, right? Okay, so what we do is we're going to create it's basically one slide per student. And then we're going to hit the share button. Now, the way to do this, remember, I'm working in the desktop version, but if I have my OneDrive connected, that's where I can save files, and then we can also make them so that they're accessible by other people and they're accessible online. So I'm going to save this PowerPoint to, and this is collaborative slides. I'm going to save this to my OneDrive. And this can be as simple as it looks whenever you get started. And so you make these 20 blank slides, or again, you could make them like their templates so they have some stuff for students to work on. And now notice this. Anyone with the link can edit. You want to make it so that anyone with the link is able to edit. And so what that means is once you copy this link and you shoot this out to your students, they can click on the link and they can use PowerPoint online, and they can jump in here and you say, okay, whenever you get in here, find a slide that doesn't have anybody's name on it, insert a little text box on it that's got your name, and then that claims that slide for you. And now what's neat about this is that you can, this becomes a collaborative space where everybody gets a slide. And so then everybody's able to see each other's slide, which is cool. Becca says type name before you duplicate so they remember to put their name. Oh, that's a great idea. Yeah. So I could have just put name here, and then I could have duplicated all of those slides. And then let's do that again. See, watch, Control D to duplicate, right? Which works with slides also. And so now that's sitting there. Another thing that I like to do with these is sometimes instead of doing it this way, I'll just insert a new slide that's a title and content slide, and I'll tell them to put their name as the title. That works just as well too. Brigade said best advice when you do this, assign slides by class roster number for organizational purposes. Yes, I've actually done that before too. I used to do it where whenever students were in class, I would put a number, I would tape a number to the back of their chair. And then I would always say, when we jump into one of these shared slide presentations, one of these shared PowerPoints, go to the number on the back of your chair, because sometimes they wouldn't remember their roster number. So at least that way, that would totally work. And then Summer says, my students will have a number, so they can go to their number too. Yeah, absolutely. Because you see that each of the slides has a number, right? And so now everybody gets their own slide. Everybody gets to interact inside of that slide. And of course, what you could do is before you duplicate all of these slides, I hope I'm not going too fast. I get excited and I start talking fast. Is that I could go make, you remember how we had the like 3 sections? What if I do that same thing where we have 3 sections or 4 sections or just 1 section or whatever? But so you can set up a template on these before you duplicate them. And so you could have 3 different little activities in here, and then I'm using Control D to duplicate. I just duplicated all of those slides, and I have 20 duplicate ones, and now the students come in, they put their name in, and they go do those 3 activities. Oh my goodness, this is fun. Oh, I hope I'm not the only nerdy one who is really enjoying this. So yeah, this is all stuff that you could totally do with these templates. So anyhow, I've shown you some of the ones that are pre-made for you. And you can, of course, come out and grab any of these on my site, which again, the link to that is ditchthattextbook.com/PowerPoint-templates, which I will drop in the chat one more time if you're interested in grabbing that. But these are some of the fun things that you could do with these templates. So you set them up, you ship them out to your students through your learning management system, like Teams or whatever it is that you use. And then the students go work on them. And I don't know about you, but if I'm a student in a class and I have the option of make 3 slides about this thing, or go do a, I'm going to give you this template that feels like a Snapchat game. Do your work in that instead. Like, that's cool. It's interactive. It really makes the most of some of those devices that we're using. So anyhow, that brings us to the end here. I hope this has been helpful to you. Excited to see your I'm excited to see your comments in here. Oh, as we're wrapping up real quick, Becca said, and I think this is a good point. She said, be careful with using slide numbers as an identifier because kids can move slides or get to their slide first or last. It's easy to drag those around and reorder those. So good point. Okay, this has been fantastic. I really enjoyed hanging out with all of you. I loved seeing all of your ideas in the comments. This was the best. So again, q.org/Microsoft is the place that you can go to, dropping that in the chat again, to go find session recordings and to go see other sessions. I've got other presentations coming up within the next week even. So would love to see you in another presentation. Be like Becca, who comes to like all of my presentations. And several of you, I'm seeing a couple of you in here. Brigitte's been to a couple of them as well. So would love to see you in future ones. I had a blast. I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Enjoy the rest of summer. If you're in the Northern Hemisphere like me and you're still wrapping up summer, make the most of those moments, right? So, all right, great. This was fantastic. I'm going to stop the recording. Hope to get to see you all in a future presentation. And my Twitter handle, since Elizabeth just asked, is @jmattmiller. I just put it into the chat. Dropping it in right now. All right, time to stop that recording. Thanks again so much. Take care.